building a bunch of businesses over the years, and in coaching and just sort of being around entrepreneurs and small business owners, I've run into so many that struggle with this delegation issue. Either folks are too scared to delegate, they don't do it, and they do all the work themselves. Or, like you said, they'll delegate, they'll give the work to somebody, but then they'll micromanage them and they'll bother the crap out of them and annoy them until they lose them, frankly. To me, the stakes are very high. Not only is it much, much harder to build a scalable business if you can't delegate, but you never get that time back, Anthony.
Joining us now on Open Book is Dave Kerpen. He's a serial entrepreneur. He's a New York Times best-selling author. The latest book is Get Over Yourself, How to Lead and Delegate Effectively for More Time, More Freedom, and More Success. Well, who doesn't want those three things? But David, first of all, congratulations on the new book. You know I'm a big fan of yours. And I just want to tell viewers and listeners that I was in a local bookshop that is now closed buying one of your books. Just so we're clear, you were also in the bookshop and you came over and introduced yourself. And so without me knowing you were in the bookshop, I was buying one of your books, which was a great networking book, which I thoroughly enjoyed. So first of all, congratulations on this. Give us a little bit of an update. We're both Port Washington natives out on Long Island. Obviously, I think it's the best place in the world. Maybe you think that. I don't know. My mother's been living there for 87 years. Talk to me. Talk to me about your life. Talk to me about where you are now. Then we'll get into the book.
Yeah, of course. That was a great moment, Anthony, because, as an author, I've only had it, I think, 3 times where I saw somebody buying or reading my book totally out in the wild, and it's really humbling and cool. And of course, I recognized you as well, and so that was a really cool meeting. Dolphin Bookshop no longer in business, and so many independent bookstores, unfortunately, no longer in business. But Port Washington has been a great home to us. We've lived here now 15 years. And raising our kids here, and just a great place to live.
Should you and I go into the book business? Should we open up a local bookstore in Port Washington?
I think I'm sad about the book business because this is my 5th book, and I'm a fan of books and authors and the work that they do. And unfortunately, as you know, Amazon has changed the book business forever, and it's pretty hard these days to build a book business, unfortunately.
Right. So the local bookstore in Port Washington, which was there for 76 years, is now closed, and there's no chance to revitalize it, right? That's just a bygone era. Is that fair to say?
I think it is fair to say, there's a few independent bookstores that are still hanging in there that do experiential marketing. I think it's possible, but it's difficult. It's just a reality that the online marketing world and Amazon mostly has changed the way we purchase most things, and certainly changed the way we purchase books. So, but I keep doing the book thing, and I know you're doing the book thing, which is very exciting.
Well, I'm a bookworm. So, too bad. I'm going to be a bookworm until I croak, and that's it. So let's talk about you. Okay. So how do you lead and delegate effectively? I don't know anybody that does it, by the way. So if you know somebody that does it, could you please introduce them to me and then help me out? Because I'm not good at it personally. I try to get good at it, but then I'm a little bit of a control freak. So talk to me.
Yeah, well, the reason I wrote this book is that in building a bunch of businesses over the years, and in coaching and just sort of being around entrepreneurs and small business owners, I've run into so many that struggle with this delegation issue, and either folks are too scared to delegate and they don't do it, and they do all the work themselves, or like you said, they'll delegate, they'll give the work to somebody, but then they'll micromanage them and they'll bother the crap out of them and annoy them until they lose them, frankly. And to me, the stakes are very high. Not only is it much, much harder to build a scalable business if you can't delegate, but you never get that time back, Anthony. And I've had a number of people come to me and say, I did this work building this business and I missed my kids growing up, and I missed that time. And as I did the research for the book, I looked at deathbed research, and the percentage of people that say on their deathbed they wish they had worked more is basically zero. It's negligible. The percentage of people that say on their deathbed they wish they had more time with their family, more time with their close friends, more time pursuing their passions, more time traveling, it's huge. And you just don't get that time back. So to me, delegation is the key to unlocking that time, that freedom. I pick up my son every day off the school bus at 3 o'clock, and I will never get that time back with him. If I weren't able to delegate work, I wouldn't be able to have that time. And so I wrote this book to help entrepreneurs and small business owners manage this.
Delegate something. I do a lot of public speeches. I can't delegate that. I'm running a fund. That's very hard to delegate because, I got my own money in the fund. And so I'm worried about the money and also worried about the client's money. I'm pushing back on you. Okay. You know why I'm pushing back on you? Because I got a lot of very smart people that listen to this podcast. Thank God. You're a very smart person. I need an apple to fall from the sky and smash me on the side of the head, Kirpin. So tell me what that is. Give me the revelation that's going to make me more confident in delegation, and tell me what I should be doing, and tell me what people do wrong, and tell me what I should be doing.
Well, there's two things that hold people back, right? So it's not everyone knows how to delegate and the systems and tools that are out there. There's hundreds of different systems and tools. What holds people back is two things: fear and distrust. So you are afraid that if you gave the work of managing your fund to somebody else, they would F it up. They would screw it up. They would lose your money. They would lose your investors' money. So how can you find somebody that you can trust and alleviate some of those fears? It takes time, of course. And the way I do it is I start with small tasks and I give people bigger and bigger and bigger tasks, and they earn my trust over time. And eventually I can hand that over to them. And yeah, sometimes people make mistakes, but guess what? Sometimes we make mistakes too. Are you the only person in the world that can manage your fund, Anthony?
This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. I've spent over half my life on Wall Street, so I know how important it is to talk in numbers. Let's face it, traditional therapy can add up fast. It can feel like a big investment, but it's also one of the most important ones you'll ever make. For me, therapy has been a game changer. Having someone to talk to, work through challenges with, and gain perspective from, it's invaluable. With BetterHelp, you pay a flat fee for weekly sessions, helping you save on both cost and time. Two things we all wish we had more of. Like most of us, I live a busy lifestyle, but with BetterHelp, you can join a session with just a click anytime, anywhere. No commute, no waiting room, just professional support when you need it. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/openbook today to get 10% off your first month.
All right, let me ask you this. Does Warren Buffett delegate the fund management to people?
Of course. He doesn't do all of the work himself. He has lots of work, lots of folks that are doing, analysts that are doing work. He might be making the final call. And yeah, you can make the final call on things. But are there ways that you could outsource some of the decision making, some of the research, some of the analysis to other folks? I mean, I think, at the risk of challenging you right back, because I know your style. I know you like to be told.
This is why we're here.
I think that I might think that I am the best person in the world to do anything is completely arrogant and completely narcissistic. There's no way on earth that I am the best person in the world to even write this book, to manage my companies, to do anything, to do marketing, to do sales. There's definitely lots and lots of people that are better than I am. Now, I might not have access to all those people all the time, but it's my goal to find better, smarter, more talented people than I am to do all of that work. And surely, in your heart, there are some people out there that could do this work as well as, if not better than you.
You're making a brilliant case. This is why I'm trying to provoke you. Okay, I want people listening. I want them to go out and buy your book. And you're making a good case. Let's talk about the work from home dynamic. And we'll talk about the office dynamic.
I think
I'm a 60-year-old traditionalist. I like people being in the office. Okay, the younger people like working from home now. They feel like they can get more done. I'm late joining this podcast because I live in Manhasset now, which is about 4 miles from where you live.
Our rival.
And it took me 1 hour and 46 minutes to get here this morning because there was a little bit of rain. And for viewers and listeners, that's 18 and a half miles from my house to my office, 1 hour and 45 minutes in traffic to get here. Should I just stay at home and do these podcasts from home? I've got the same computer set up. I've got the same system, arguably a better microphone. I don't know. What should I do?
Yeah, I would have called myself a traditionalist in that way up until maybe 5-6 years ago, but I'll never look back. The time I save and the productivity that I generate, and most important, the time that I now have with my family that I wouldn't have had otherwise, that is way, way, way more valuable than the so-called benefits of being face-to-face in the office. And I think, yes, is it more challenging to build culture on Zoom? Of course. Is it more challenging to do the work from home thing? Of course. But do my people appreciate the freedom and autonomy to do the work at their discretion, at their leisure, the way they want to do it? They do. And I think the old system, again, to challenge you, the old system of 9 to 5, be in the office, show your face, first one to get in the office, last one to leave. I don't see the benefits anymore versus giving folks the flexibility and the autonomy to do the best job they can in the time that works best for them. Lots of people work well early in the morning. Lots of people work well super late at night. I do not care at all how you get the job done or when you get the job done. I care that you get the job done. I give my team the objectives, the finish line, what the finish line looks like, success. And I say, how you get there. There was that woman that ran that cheated on the New York Marathon years ago. She took the subway, right? And people didn't realize or whatever. She crossed the finish line having taken the subway. And that's cheating, of course. That doesn't work. But from my perspective, I don't care if you take the subway or you run the 26 miles. If you get to the finish line, great. Are there exceptions to that in finance? Do you have to be available during business hours, during trading hours? Of course, there are exceptions to every rule. But in the bottom line is, if I give people the freedom and autonomy to do the work wherever they want, whenever they want, however they want, but they can still crush it, hit those goals, exceed those goals, why do I care?
Okay. I love you, by the way. I mean, in like a bro love kind of a way, because you're a very unique guy. And how do you stay positive all the time? Like, you are a positivity force of nature. So,
positivity. Thank you. Positivity is there's real science behind it. I encountered this guru a few years ago. His name is Shirzad Shamin. He's a professor at Stanford, and he has written a book called Positive Intelligence. You should definitely have him on. He writes about the actual the impact of positivity on our lives and on our productivity and efficiency. There is a real science to productivity. So to positivity. So am I in a crappy mood sometimes? Of course. Am I bummed about various things? Of course. But I know that positivity will impact my mood, my ability to get things done, and it will impact others. There's a lot of people that go around through life thinking, if I make a lot of money, then I will be happy, and then I can be grateful. And my perspective is the opposite. If I channel gratitude all the time, whenever possible, and we do gratitude practices every day at dinner, my whole family goes around the table. We're all grateful. I write gratitude lists. I go to bed thinking about 5 things I'm grateful for every single night. If I channel gratitude, that will actually create happiness in me, and the happiness will make me more productive, which in the long run will make me lots of money. That's not why I do it, of course, but I really truly believe in the power of positivity. And the way I stay positive, to answer your question, is 2 things: gratitude and acts of kindness. Those are 2 things that take us out of our own mishigas, to use a little. I'm sure you're from Port Washington, even though you grew up Italian, you know the word mishigas. We're all full of anxiety, and we get bummed about the stupidest things. You're in a crappy mood right now because it took you 1 hour and 45 minutes to get here, and that's a pain in the ass. Don't get me wrong, but at the end of the day, that hour and 45 minutes compared to the grand scheme of the amazing gifts that you have, the family that you have, the wealth that you've achieved, the people you've been able to meet and develop relationships with through the years, that's amazing. And so when I have a crappy day, like an hour and 45-minute commute, which doesn't happen very often because I'm working from home, but when I do that, I go to acts of kindness and gratitude, and it completely transforms my mood. It's real stuff.
I'm playing the foil here because if I was too positive, it would just be too positive of a thing. And I've got a lot of Brits that listen to this shit, and they like when I take the piss out of people.
The Brits are tough. The Brits are not.
I don't want to be overly positive, but by the way, don't cry for me because I got a hookup in the back of the car with my my Amazon Fire. I was watching Shogun in the back of the car on FX episode 7, which was quite a good episode. So you don't have to cry for me. I like coming into the city, and I like the jungle, and I like the fight. But what I don't like is when people are mean to other people. That I don't like. I don't like when someone goes after my receptionist because they think they have more power than my receptionist, right? I don't like that. And one of the messages consistent in all of your books is that you can get a lot done and still be cool and still be nice. So take us through that, David. Take us through, wake people up, let people know that killing people with kindness is the better recipe.
Kindness matters. It really does, and it matters in business. It matters most important in life. It matters in sales. I once cracked really early on in my career. I was trying to crack I was in sales for Disney, and I was trying to crack the Dunkin' Donuts account. Obviously, a huge account at the time, and the marketing rep was never around, always too busy, etc. Well, I would go and visit and get to know the receptionist. Her name was Betty Biggs. God rest her soul. I don't believe she could be possibly with us still because this is a while back. But I became BFF with Betty Biggs, Anthony. I would say I would show up with coffee and donuts, but working at Dunkin' Donuts, she already had it. But I would show up, with little gifts and just to stop by and say hello. I got to know her really well. So one day I get a phone call. It's Betty Biggs. She's calling me, and I said, "What's going on, Betty Biggs?" She goes, "Shannon, the marketing rep. Shannon just got into the office. She's free right now. You need to call her right this minute." I said, "Thank you so much." Picked up the phone, called Shannon, landed that Dunkin' Donuts account, and it really set off wonderful things in my career. Now, had I not gone the extra mile to be kind, not only to be kind to, but really to develop a relationship with, a real friendship with the receptionist, that never would have happened. Never would have unlocked the Dunkin' Donuts account. Who knows what other path I might have gone on. For me, every interaction matters. How grateful am I that I happened to see you in the bookstore and see you buying my book and use that opportunity to say hello and invite you over for dinner, and we built a relationship. If life is too short not to choose kindness at every opportunity is the way I see it.
It's important. I just wanted to make sure I got that message out there because that's a big Kirpin message. It's sort of the Kirpin kindness methodology. Let's talk about ego for a second, okay? The ego is healthy in some ways, right? It gives us strength and identity and purpose, and we have to believe in ourselves, of course, to do the things that we want to do to achieve our dreams. But it can also get in the way, right? It can also be a blockage for us, right? It's certainly a blockage when you delegate. You write about this in the book. You talk about how your ego can get in the way of delegation. So tell us about the assets and liabilities of an ego.
Yeah, so the title "Get Over Yourself" is really twofold, right? Because we need to literally get over ourselves doing the work in order to delegate. But to your point, we need to get over ourselves in terms of our ego. When I said earlier to you, how could you possibly be the best person on the planet to do something? That's ego. We think. Because we live with ourselves. And look, ego is natural. To your point, there's some positive benefits, certainly, of confidence. But the reality is we're all relatively similar human beings, got just about 99.999% of the same DNA. And yeah, some people might be smarter than other people in certain things, and some people might have certain talents. Absolutely. but we're all basically the same. And so this idea of thinking that we're the best thing at best and at anything, that cockiness, that arrogance, it just doesn't suit us well. So, get over yourself is literally get over yourself to delegate to others. But for me, it's, it's a good reminder. I got to check my ego at the door too. And luckily I married up. I think we both married up. I certainly married up 3, 4, 5 levels. So I get to, sort of pinch myself all the time and remind myself how lucky I am.
Well, I've met your wife. You definitely married up. But I mean, my wife is not my better half. She's like my better 9/10, and I'm actually being generous to me. It's totally fine. The book I was purchasing was The Art of People. You remember writing that book?
Yes, sir. 11 simple people skills that will get you everything you want. And the interesting thing is you bought that right before you went to the White House. But I think you bought it for your son, if I recall.
Well, I read it first, but I bought it for him because I thought that book, and I don't know if you remember the legendary Harvey Mackay. Okay, he wrote a book called Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty. I thought your book and his book were probably the two best books I've ever read on networking. So tell us a little bit about The Art of People.
Yeah, so, look, networking, similar to what I said about kindness, I think that for me, at least, relationships are all we have. And every opportunity, every person that we meet is an opportunity to learn and to build our network. We never know. There's folks that are very particular about who they'll accept a connection with on LinkedIn. They have to really have met them in person and have a business relationship with them, yada, yada, yada. For me, it's like, well, the more people I connect with, the better, because you just never know when paths will cross. And so now my favorite thing to do is to connect other people with each other, because then I can, create all kinds of synergies, and people remember who connected them. There's so much more opportunity in relationships than we might realize. And when we think less about what they can do for us and more about what we can do for them, in the long run, that absolutely comes back to us.
So there's a word that people use all the time called charisma. What does that word mean to you? And is charisma something you can teach somebody, or is that something they're born with?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think charisma is tough to teach. I think, the reality is introverted people have a more difficult time in building relationships, in networking, et cetera. The internet's been good. The internet evens the score to a great extent with respect to the charisma situation. There's no charisma doesn't really come through in a Instagram DM or in an email. So that gives folks an opportunity to sort of level the playing field. But to me, charisma is this sort of energy and charm that is hard to teach, unfortunately. And, all I can say with respect to my own ability to have hopefully some charisma, so I've been told, is the way I look at it is genuine interest and curiosity in every conversation, in every opportunity, in every person. And I truly am genuinely curious, whether it's Betty Biggs, the receptionist, or Anthony, the security guard at my kid's school, then when I do kid drop off in the morning, or the CEO of 1-800-Flowers.com, Jim McCann, a friend of ours and a great mentor to me. Every person I meet is somebody that I genuinely want to better understand and learn from. Yeah.
I took Jim with me to the Met home opener. I just sent them the link for the suicide hotline for the Mets. Okay, it's absolutely brutal. But the word, when you look it up, it has a derivation from ancient Greece, and the charismatic, or the charism is it means to be magnetic, and so the word charm comes from this. When someone's charming, it means they attract people to them. Is that what it means to you?
Yeah, it's an energy, it's a curiosity, I think magnetism is a good way to describe it, but it's a very hard quality to really kind of nail down. I think, to your point earlier, it's a very hard quality to teach, unfortunately. I think you can teach. I think what I try to teach my kids again, is that genuine curiosity and interest in other people. And I think that does come through, and people appreciate it. I know I wrote this in Art of People. It is much better to be interested than to be interesting. We think we have to be interesting. We have to tell these great stories. We have to like be the center of attention. And sure, it's great to be the center of attention, but the person that is genuinely interested in others is the one that's going to be remembered the longest.
So, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Seminal book, right, on awareness?
Wonderful, wonderful book, and one of the highlights of my career was when I wrote Art of People. Adam Grant, who's just an absolute brilliant author, my favorite author, wrote. He did an endorsement for me and called The Art of People a sort of a more modern version of How to Win Friends and Influence People, which is it's a classic book. Wonderful.
Oh, well, I'm bringing it up because I do think that The Art of People is an undersold book. By the way, it was a bestseller, but I do think people should go out there and buy that as well.
Well, thank you. By the way, it's done very, very well in Europe. So for the Brits listening, Europe and the Netherlands, it continues to sell off the charts. To your point, it stopped selling in the US, but it's fine.
You're too happy for the British, okay? They have shitty weather over there, okay? You're just too happy for them, okay? You tone it down a little bit, Kirpin, all right? All right, but no, in all seriousness, I love your work. I think the message in your work, and I think the message about delegation is to give other people the chance. Get over yourself. You're not that important. See if the other people can do it. And by the way, one of the other things you say, if they make mistakes, so what? Like you just said, we'll all make mistakes, including ourselves. It can't be your way or the highway. Otherwise, you become a bottleneck. And then if you're a bottleneck in your business where every decision has to flow through you, you're really not going to grow or reach the potential that everybody in the room could potentially have. Isn't that the message?
Yeah, I mean, we're so afraid of failure and of them messing up, and the reality is, first of all, you will make mistakes anyway, and second of all, they also will make mistakes, but they'll learn from those mistakes. And if you can build trust with them, your leaders, and build a team, and then they can, in success, build a team. That's how you grow. That's how you grow over time, and you cannot build. No one can build $1 billion company on their own. No one can create a business that gives you the freedom to spend all the time with your children that you want without other people. So whatever your goals are, whether it's $1 billion company or time and freedom, you have to be able to trust others to learn and grow on the job, to make mistakes on the job, and to eventually help you grow. And here's the thing: we're so afraid that they're going to screw up. There's a decent chance that they're going to do better than you would have done. There is, right? Again, it's the ego. We think we're the best, but why? We're not the best.
That's what you want. That was the trouble with Trump. He was a one-man show with a one-man spotlight. He didn't want anybody to take any credit for anything. There's just this rapacious insecurity. But the smart people, Reagan had a great plaque in the Oval Office, right on the desk in the Oval Office, that said you can get anywhere you want in life as long as you don't care who gets the credit. Okay, so the super secure people are the ones that are able to delegate the most. All right, we're down to the 5 words. I have a podcast becoming a little famous now, Kirpin. Okay, I mean we're getting a lot of followers and viewers. I call it the famous 5 words. I'm going to give you 5 words. You give me your quick reaction. It could be a word, a sentence, something that comes to mind. You ready?
Let's do it.
Freedom.
Autonomy. Having the ability to do things the right way in your own time and space.
Mindset.
Power. The right mindset. The right mindset of positivity gives us the ultimate power.
Right, and ultimately, what did the Stoics say? We have pain and pleasure in our life. When you're going through the pain, learn to deal with it. Adjust your brain to accept it. Excuse me. Deal with the world the way it is, not with the way You want it to be, right? Isn't that ultimately what creates the best mindset?
I mentioned Shirzad Shamin in Positive Intelligence earlier. He writes in his book, he interviewed Christopher Reeve. And Christopher Reeve said the best thing that ever happened to him was getting paralyzed. Can you imagine that? We all think that's the worst thing that could possibly happen to you. He said it was the best thing. Why? Because it gave his life tremendous meaning. He spent the rest of his life advocating and changing the world with respect to people with disabilities. Imagine the ability to have that sort of mindset of positivity and perspective. And if Christopher Reeve can feel that, then we can all be a little bit less upset over the hour and 45 minutes of traffic that we had, and really channel positive thinking and work that mindset.
I wasn't really that upset. You're making a big deal of it. I just apologized for being late for the podcast. Now you're making me feel bad. Look at you.
No, don't feel bad.
The Jewish guy. I mean, it's like having my mother on a phone.
I know the guilt.
The guilt is overwhelming. You don't have to display the Italian Jewish neuroses to all of our
Jews and Italians are basically the same.
There's no question. Although we got you on the food.
You have us on the food, but we keep feeding people. It's just bad food.
Yeah, we have you on the food, but you guys could possibly have us on the guilt. All right, the third word, life.
Beautiful. Life is Beautiful is a great movie, and life is that's the only way to see life is life is beautiful. It's such a gift.
What about success?
Success is in our heads. Success is how we define it. And I used to define it based on the number of zeros I would have at the in the bank account, and that's such a false premise. There's no correlation between folks. You need some money to get by, and certainly in some areas of the world, like Long Island, you need a little bit more. But globally, after $75,000 a year, there is zero correlation between money, income, and happiness. Zero. So we think of many people think of success on the financial terms, and I just don't anymore. I think of success in terms of happiness and fulfillment with my family. And the money comes, and it's beautiful and it's easy. And yes, it's easy to say that when you have financial success, but for me, success is really, it's about the fulfillment and the happiness with the things that I care about. So for me, that's my family.
Delegation.
Opportunity. It's an opportunity, and it holds so many people back, but delegation creates so much opportunity for personal growth and for business growth. It's like to me the big secret that I wish more people had access to. I hope more people, whether they read the book or not, that they could take a chance on delegation.
Listen, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, because we all need these lessons. We all need to reinforce these lessons. And delegation is also a good sign of mentorship, because if you can delegate, you can train people to replace you. And the best leaders know that they are replaceable, and someday someone's going to have to do their job. And so why not delegate and give the person that opportunity? And I think that's a big resonating message. The title of the book is Get Over Yourself: How to Lead and Delegate Effectively for More Time, More Freedom, and More Success, from the legendary Dave Kerpen, fellow Long Islander. I would say go Vikings, but I can't say that anymore because I live in Manhasset, so I'm going to say go Indians, although they're changing the name of the Indians now because of Kathy Hochul. The local Indian tribe is upset about it, even though they're not Indians. I guess they're Native Americans, but they don't really care. It's just this endless wokeness that we're dealing with, which hopefully will also resolve itself. But in the meantime, go out and buy Dave Kerpen's book, Get Over Yourself. Dave, thank you so much for joining us on Open Book today.
Thank you for having me. While of course I'm a big Vikings fan, and my kid's a Port Washington legend, I got to give the Legends a shout out. The one good thing that Manhasset does have going for you guys is the orange. You do have the orange color, so that's good.
You like that?
I love that.
All right. Well, God bless you, man.
The most important thing is to do your preparation. Tucker Carlson, in his interview, he was very focused on a very small audience in America. And Putin slapped him around, if you remember. And he didn't do that with me because I took advice. I did my preparation and treated him with a degree of respect.
But I think the difference between you and him is you weren't intimidated. You could see that he was back here. You're working for the FT and you're carrying the august institution of the FT on your back. So you have a responsibility to be more discerning with somebody like President Putin.
Very important to have that combination when you're talking. I do drop a lot of names. I interviewed a lot of world leaders, and you shouldn't be arrogant. You got to be respectful, but you cannot afford to be intimidated because Trump, Putin, they smell weakness and they take advantage of it.
Okay, welcome to Open Book. I am your host, Anthony Scaramucci. Joining us now is Lionel Barber. Lionel was the former editor-in-chief of the Financial Times. He's wrote two extraordinary books. I want to hold this one up. It's in that pink salmon color, The Powerful and the Damned, Private Diaries in Turbulent Times, an awesome book. And a newer book, Gambling Man, The Wild Ride of Japan's Masayoshi-san. And so we're going to do a 2-for-1 special here, Mr. Barber. Very grateful for you joining us. We're sort of having a home and away. I did your podcast in London a few weeks ago, which I greatly enjoyed. And one of the promises I make to our authors, I read these books so that I can ask the questions from a reader's perspective, not just from somebody that gets like a briefing. So I want to go to your career, by the way, which I found to be remarkable as I traced it back. Let's go back to 1978. And of course, there was an article in the Financial Times this weekend, okay, when you were working for the Scotsman, okay? And so let's go to 1978. How do we go from the Scotsman to becoming editor-in-chief of a century-and-a-half-old news organization, the Financial Times?
Oh, Anthony, a confession to straight up. It was the only job I was offered in journalism. All the other people turned me down. So I thought, well, I'm going to take the Scotsman. I've never been to Scotland. And it wasn't that easy in England to be an Englishman in Scotland because they had a referendum just to have their own parliament back in 79. And so I arrived, and I had a lot to learn. Well, then I got lucky because a series of articles I wrote, I went to Poland, and the uprising and the fall of the government was one of the first cracks in the communism. And I got the Young Journalist of the Year in Britain in 1981. So the Sunday Times, Rupert Murdoch's paper, he just bought those papers. They gave me a job as a business correspondent. And I think that was probably the beginnings of a career. But I did have to get knocked into shape.
Let's talk about journalism for a second. I find journalists, for me, it's sort of a calling. If you haven't figured me out yet, Lionel, I'm a closet journalist. I read everything. I've got subscriptions to every newspaper and every news magazine, and I follow journalism with great detail. I got in trouble with Donald Trump for writing an op-ed that the free press is not the enemy of the people. So I'm a closet journalist, but my passion's more for money management. But you, based on this book, The Powerful and the Damned, are a real journalist. So talk about the passion and the calling to becoming a journalist.
Well, I got it from my father, who left school at 15. I'm not going to say I came from a poor background, but I came from a modest background. And my father came from the north of England. He didn't go to college. And so he taught us, Anthony, to read books and newspapers. And you're a great reader. I had to learn how to be a big reader from my father. And I thought I'm pretty good at storytelling, and I admire him. I don't think I'm ever going to be as good as my father, who went on to work at the BBC. But he always made the point that journalism is not a profession, it's a vocation. And he always said to me, if you want to earn money, you're in the wrong job. It's a vocation. You've really got to be passionate about it.
So very true. So this book, this is a 35-year book, I guess. This is
No, actually, Anthony, it's just the time I was editor.
no,
So
no, no, no. I
14 plus
see
years.
that.
Yeah.
I know it's 2005 to 2020, but to me,
Oh, I see.
there's 35 years of experience in this book. I know it's a diary for those 15 years, but I find that the Masayoshi-san book is a different book. I feel like this is somebody, by your own words in the book, is not well known. I think you described him in the book as probably the most consequential investor that people know the least about. And I'll just tell my own personal story. I was with him at a New York Mets Chicago Cubs game 25 years ago in the Tokyo Dome. And I had gotten invited by Mark Schwartz, who was running Goldman Sachs's Tokyo division. He was the CEO of Goldman Tokyo. And I was a guest because I was friends with Bobby Valentine. Sitting next to me was a guy named Masayoshi-san. I had no idea. I had no idea who he was. It's probably embarrassing to admit that to you because at that time he was internet famous, as you point out in the book, his rise. And he was just a very humble, very soft-spoken, felt like he was just like a diligent guy. And so why don't people know who he is? Here is this consequential investor with hundreds of billions of dollars of scale.
Well, he's from Japan, and although he speaks fluent English because he did go to college at Berkeley and spent 6 years, he left Japan age 15, very unusually, and he's to learn English and to get that American experience. But he's also somebody who's under the radar. I mean, we could talk about why he's suddenly been big in the limelight with Donald Trump recently with his AI investments. But back then, he was soft-spoken. He was under the radar. And he was probably even more soft-spoken when he spoke to you in the stadium, because in 2000, he just lost 97% of his paper fortune with the dot-com bust.
It was on the way down. So it was, just to set the scene for you, sir, it was March of 2020, and it was right before the implosion of the NASDAQ bubble, which, as you point out in the book, would have destroyed most people, but he stayed on message. So where does he get this grit from?
I think it's because he's an outsider in Japan. He's Korean Japanese. And if you're Korean Japanese in Japan, you're not going to go to become a school teacher or a banker or a politician. You're basically a nobody. You're discriminated against. And remember, Anthony, he had to live under an alias like most Korean Japanese. His name was Yasumoto because the family didn't want to show that they were actually Korean. So I think being an outsider, watching his father, who was into pachinko slot machines, he had before been a loan shark, and he was selling moonshine as a kid. But his father got rich on slot machine gambling called pachinko. And in pachinko, you can make a lot of money and you can lose a lot of money. And I think he learned the hustle from his dad.
I've had my share of pachinko losings while I've been in Tokyo, so I have great sympathy for that. But for me, there's one exchange in this. I don't want to give the whole book away, but I just think it's a phenomenal book about understanding entrepreneurship, Asian-based entrepreneurship. I think you delved into this, frankly, because you were an Englishman as an outsider in Scotland. Here is a Korean in Japan as an outsider, taking risks. I want all that 35, 40 years of journalism into the following question. Ready? What was the most powerful exchange between the two? You had access to him, and you had several interviews with him. What was the one interview where the apple hit you on the side of the head and said, whoa, this guy's a different beast than the other guys?
Well, it was the first interview. I'd gone to Tokyo the first time, and he said he was too busy. I think he was actually not that well. It was just after COVID. And he's a very elusive man. And I'd gone out to see his home, and I went into this meeting, and I'd done my homework, and I asked him what it was like growing up as a kid. And he described how he'd grown up on the edge of this shanty town and been with his grandmother, and there were just pigs around the grandmother's house. And he told me with tears in his eyes that as a kid, he had constant nightmares. And even as a young man, the stench of the pig feces, the excrement in his nostrils, that was a recurring memory nightmare of where he came from and which he can never forget. And I have to say that was a very powerful moment. You couldn't make that up.
Well, I love that story. I think there was something about it. And when I closed that book before I started the power, I read that one first, by the way. When I closed that book, I always try to take one or two things away from a book that I'm reading. When I closed that book, to me, it was his resilience. And I think the what marked his resilience is that he really doesn't care, meaning that I'm going to lose 90% of my money, 97% of my money, no problem. I'm getting up tomorrow. Let's go at it again. And I think he has built a reputation institutionally. I think you interviewed one of my friends, Marcelo Clar, for the book.
Yes.
And I had dinner once with Marcelo, who said to me, the one thing about Masayoshi, he does not stop. And I've got a lot of young people that listen to this podcast, and it's a big lesson for people. You can get knocked down, as he did in March of 2020 into June of 2020, and look at where he is today. And I think that's a big lesson for people, that there are second, third, possibly fourth acts in your life. Just keep moving. All right, so I'm going to switch abruptly now to this one. And this one really touched me, sir, because I thought, and I've recommended this now to several of my journalist friends. You should read Lionel's book, because you went through Brexit, the tech boom, the global financial crisis, and the rise of fake news. That was your tenure, basically, at the FT from those years. So looking back, I have a guess for myself, but what is the toughest editorial call that you had to make in the 15 years?
Oh, God, there were quite a few. One strategic call was to say, even though we've had the shock of the global financial crisis, we should not write off capitalism. We may need some changes, but what we must not do is lose all faith in capitalism. And I have to say, my predecessor made that mistake after the dot-com boom, because I wouldn't have got the job if, I was in New York and they decided to make a change in the editorship. And that's how I got that job. And I think I had that in mind. I think on Brexit, hands up, Anthony, we got that wrong. I made the call that based on rational economic argument, the Brits would vote for Brexit. I didn't let that color the news reporting, but I kept in the back of my mind thinking, I'm worried that the whole paper is so, pro-Remain that Britain should remain in the European Union. We may be missing something. So I would say that was a tough call, and I don't think I got it completely right. What do you think? What do you think?
It's interesting because I really thought the digital advancement, I felt you got that right, meaning you pushed the FT in your tenure to switch it up. I mean, you were, frankly, in my mind, ahead of the New York Times in terms of you went full hog into digital advancement. I can remember late 2005 subscribing to FT Digital, and it was incredibly robust. And I think that that's something that you're not giving yourself enough credit for, because it sustained the FT in a way that it may not have been sustained just from the broadsheet paper. So I give you a lot of, that was bold. I guess the one thing I would tease you about is there's one section in the book where you're not upgrading the hard top computers in your New York office. Okay, I caught that. I was like, whoa, that's impressive, because I'm always so anxious about that. I'm talking to you from a brand new laptop, Lionel Barber. I just want to make sure you know that, because I'm always nervous that I'm going to miss something or something will glitch on me. But also your insight. I really feel you've got very good insight. You have a wide aperture into human beings. So what writings, what experiences do you draw from? Your insight into Blair, your discussion of Putin when you met him in the embassy, and of course various assortment of other people. You've gone from Riyadh and the Royal Palace to Trump Tower to the Kremlin and back. So what are you drawing on when you make these judgments slash? I feel like I got a very good scouting report on a lot of people
Yeah.
in this book.
Yeah. I would single out the Putin interview with Vladimir Putin in 2019 in June because, it took 5 years. I wasn't begging for it. They offered several times to have an interview with somebody else, or they wanted to do it one way. And I said, no, it should be just the FT, me leading. I'll take the correspondent, obviously. But I waited for more than 5 years for that. And, the most important thing is to do your preparation. This is a podcast is not where you take shots at other people, but I would just say that I don't think Tucker Carlson in his interview did enough preparation. He was very focused on a very small audience in America, and Putin slapped him around, if you remember, and said, I thought you were going to do a serious interview, but you're just some kind of talk show host. And he didn't do that with me because I took advice. I did my preparation. And treated him.
I think, not to interrupt you, sir, but I think the difference between you and him is you weren't intimidated.
Well,
I think Tucker. I mean, again, I know Tucker a long time. Worked with him at Fox News.
Yeah.
I think he was intimidated. You could see that he was back here.
You can't do that.
You're working for the FT and you're carrying the august institution of the FT on your back into the interview. And so you have a responsibility to be more discerning with somebody like President Putin. But
it's very important to do that, have that combination when you're talking. And this book is, I drop a lot of names. I interviewed a lot of world leaders and people, top people on Wall Street, like, Jamie Dimon a number of times and Lloyd Blankfein, your old colleagues at Goldman. I mean, you shouldn't be arrogant. You got to be respectful, but you cannot afford to be intimidated because Trump, Putin, they smell weakness and they take advantage of it.
No question. I mean, that's something I had these conversations with my friend Mark Carney, who's now the Prime Minister of Canada, about this, particularly with President Trump. I love this book. It was raw. It was immediate. There were fresh accounts. But it made me question something that I was dying to ask you, which is what entries did not make the book? Is there something you could share with us? Say, whoa, it's a little bit too much. Maybe I got to leave it out of this beautiful book.
Well, an awful lot went in. I think there were one or two exchanges, and I do need to tread here a little bit because I wasn't spending all my time with the intelligence community, but occasionally once a year or so, you go for lunch at MI6 and talk to the spy master. And those conversations I did not report in the book because I think they were so, they were totally off the record. And I don't think they were that revealing compared to others, but that didn't make it. I think what would be other things, maybe one or two conversations with the proprietor. And certainly, Anthony, I did not dump on my colleagues. There were some interchanges, obviously, where there were difficult conversations where you have to make a big decision about somebody. That didn't go in the book.
No, that wasn't this book. This book was, here are my observations as a global traveler and as a journalist, someone that has great insatiable intellectual curiosity. Here are my observations of what went on during my tenure and also decisions. And I think you were very fair in the book of decisions that you made right and some things you could have done better or differently, which is every business executive. There's no executive, whether it's Warren Buffett, Jamie Dimon, Lloyd Blankfein, who's a close friend of mine. Nobody can be perfect with their decisions. And by the way, you wouldn't have time, Lionel Barber, for all the bad mistakes I've made. Okay, I've got phone books of mistakes about my life. So, but I one last question. Then I want to turn to my favorite part of our podcast, where I list out 5 words. I get my my author to respond to the 5 words. But this is it's more of an existential question. I found the book to be hopeful. I found the book to be, I think we're in a media morass right now. We've got tribalism. We have ethnic distinctions and stereotyping that's going on. Tribalism and polarity in the United Kingdom. That would be true here in the U.S. And probably most of the Western world has some elements of this. But I found the book to be hopeful because I found that most of the people that you're writing about, whatever their flaws are, at least Western leaders and Western business executives, are generally well-intentioned. Do I have that wrong, or is that something I shouldn't be taking away from this book?
No, I'm going to butter your biscuits here, Anthony. You're dead right. I'm so glad you noticed that. I think with experience and some maturity, you become a little bit more understanding that maybe people aren't always totally cynical. They are trying to do the right thing, but they're human beings and they make mistakes. I'm hopeful because I genuinely believe there is room for serious journalism and for reliable, trustworthy information. And I think, and I say this in the book, there are such things as facts. They're very important. I should have said the toughest call that I made was on the Wirecard investigation, that huge German fraud, as big as Enron. I mean, I lived that story for a year and we got them in the end. They were fraudsters. And we showed them importance of that story, Anthony, for all people in finance and business. Was there was a fraud, a newspaper exposed it. Facts are facts.
No question. I appreciate that, but I found the book to be remarkably uplifting. I admire you a great deal for writing it. So we're down to the 5 words. So how this goes down with my other authors is I'm going to say the word. You give me a sentence or 2. Okay. And so I'm going to start with the word power. I say power. You say what?
I say palace. I look at the room where the person of power is, and I study everything in that room to try, because power reflects character. Then the second point would be, it's changed, hasn't it? There are people, there are always new sources of power, people that you've never thought of, like Elon Musk, who's suddenly the most powerful person in the world in terms of money. So defining power and the relationship that an editor has with power. I'm giving you far too long an answer.
No, it's good. It's good. But also,
I'll be
power is also unpredictable, though, by the way.
Very true.
Unpredictable. I don't think any of us, myself included, you know who didn't predict Donald Trump's first electoral victory? That would be Donald Trump. I was with him the evening of the he was like, "What are you doing tomorrow?" He was heading to Scotland to go play golf. That was his plans on November the 9th. And it got detoured by his electoral success. So power sometimes can also be unpredictable. If I say the word journalism, sir, what do you say?
The truth, the search for the truth based on facts.
Well said. Which is why I'm intrigued by journalists. Masayoshi Son.
Man of mystery, outsider, massive gambler who's just more resilient than a gummy ball.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I got that from him. And that was a big part of that book. I'm like, got to stay in things no matter what's happening around you. If I say the FT, the Financial Times, the Pink Palace,
the world's leading business newspaper, with great deference to the Journal, but, based in the city of London, a vital part of public discourse and a source of trustworthy journalism. It's now been going more than 130 years. Under new ownership with the Japanese, hasn't changed.
Well, you mentioned the intelligence services. When I got my first presidential daily brief, I asked the analyst where he was reading. I said to the CIA, so a lot of the information is coming in very tribal and very slanted. And he said, and I'll just share this with you, he said he reads the English version of the Le Monde, which is the Parisian paper, because he says, Anthony, they don't care about us. So they report politics pretty objectively. And he read the FT for an overall survey of the business landscape in the world, because he felt that that was the most impartial of the papers out there that were covering that. So I share that with you.
Bob Rubin said the same thing.
Last word, and I'll give you the last word. Lionel Barber. I say the word Lionel Barber, the two words, and you say what?
There's life after the FT.
Yeah, it's been good for you, right? You've been enjoying it. Yeah?
I've been enjoying it. I have, family, and my 2 kids are in the States. I think of my first name, Franklin. My father named me after Franklin Roosevelt. I wish I could have kept that name, but people kept calling me Frankie. So that's why it's Lionel Barber.
All right. Well, there you go. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us on Open Book. There are 2 books here. The first one is Gambling Man, about the life of Masayoshi-san. And the second book is The Powerful and the Damned, which is a diary. It's a private diaries in turbulent times of the Financial Times 2005 to 2020. Mr. Lionel Barber, thank you so much for joining us on Open Book.
It's been a huge pleasure, Anthony. I've really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you.